Juniors make the mining world go round, and this particular junior, Blencowe Resources, certainly does. To find out why, we're joined by its CEO, Mike. Mike, thank you so much for your time. So I mentioned you're one of the juniors in the mining industry that's making the world go round, and I think it is only fair that you tell us what it is that you're working on in terms of projects that's quite exciting right now.
Thank you for having me. Blencowe Resources is developing the Orom-Cross Graphite Project, which is a substantial 2 to 3 billion ton deposit in northern Uganda. It's an enormous project that has big implications in terms of battery metals and where the energy transition is going, because graphite is a non-replaceable input into the lithium-ion batteries that drive EVs and store energy for any renewables. So it's a big part of this transition. We have a great project. We've been developing it for the last 5 years, and we're in the latter stages of a definitive study, and thereafter we're moving to production.
What have been some of the challenges in putting this project together?
Plenty of challenges, as they always are. I think the most important thing, or the biggest challenge for graphite, is that you're not selling into a metal market like you are for many base metals. You have to do a process called pre-qualification, where you're taking your end samples right through to the end users, and you're going through a process where they test it. It's all about energy content at the end of the day for that battery, and they will have to be comfortable with that. So it's a complex process, and it's taken time and a lot of money, but fortunately we're at the back end of that, and fortunate for us, we've got a high purity of end product, so it works very well. But it's a big challenge. And I guess the other big challenge we faced is funding. Early stage funding is always the hard part. Everyone wants to fund you when you're in production and you've got it all done. But for us, early stage is tricky. But we've managed to navigate this far. We've been lucky, so it's going to plan.
Are all the hard parts behind you right now?
No, it never is. I think if I said that, I'd be lying. I think we've always got challenges, but we are transitioning from an explorer and a feasibility study stage into early stage production. And that's a difficult transition because there's a lot of funding, there's offtake contracts and other big challenges. They're the sort of meaty end of it. So they're all sitting in amongst us right now. And when we get through that, then we've got something of real value.
I'm glad you brought up the word transition, because I think energy transition, green energy transition, and however you want to describe it, has been probably one of the many focal points here at the Mining Indaba. But it also brings to mind the conversations that are taking place within the critical mineral space. When you think about the projects that you're currently working on, how does that play into the conversation that we've been having around critical minerals?
Well, it's difficult. We can see a world where there's obviously a lot of conflict going on between the West and the East, and that tariffs war that we're all aware of is going to create the other side doing whatever they've got to do to fight back, and it creates the potential for a lot of big issues for everybody involved in the energy transition, because a lot of the purification of most of the energy metals goes through Asia, and in particular China, for that purification process. It's historically the fact of what happens. So there is a sort of bottleneck which everyone's trying to address, and trying to address it very fast, I might add, because we realize that there's a lot of risk there. But at the same time, you can't take this IP and learn it overnight. So there's got to be a transition. But it's very important that we do get that process, and we have the opportunity to be able to further beneficiate many different metals and minerals elsewhere, because at the end of the day, we obviously want to diversify that risk and have the opportunity to continue this transition, which is very important to the planet.
What can we expect from Blencowe Resources over the next 12 months?
Well, we've got a drilling program that we're completing in the next couple of months. That's obviously a big step for us, as we're probably looking to double our resource. Then we're going to complete our feasibility study, which will showcase what a fantastic opportunity this is. Quite a unique opportunity, I might add. We've got features which are differentiated from many of our peers. And then as we put together the funding package, we'll hopefully be moving into production, early stage production. It'll be a staged event. But as we do that, it's quite exciting, because there are not going to be many graphite projects going into production in the future. So for us, it's obviously very important that we're one of them.
Is this your first Mining Indaba, or how many years have you been attending Mining?
A few.
A few. Talk to me about how those conversations have evolved over the years that you've been attending.
Yeah, well, the nature of our business and our industry is that it's cyclical. And so sometimes you come here and everybody thinks battery metals are the big hero, and then sometimes you come and they're not. They're the opposite. And so you have to take 10 years to develop a project through from start to production, and we can't go up and down and in and out like everybody else in terms of these cyclical. So we have to take a long-term view. We have to believe in our project. We have to, when it's good days, you're happy. When it's bad days, you've got to fight hard. And at the moment, the battery metal space is a little bit more tricky than it was, say, 2 years ago. But that doesn't mean it's not got value and it won't have value in the future. We've just got to work harder and make it happen.
Speaking of having a long-term view, if you had to give advice to the juniors who are in the critical mineral space and they're looking to bring projects online, what are some of the lessons that you had to learn that you would impart on anyone else any day?
Well, I think there are a couple of key things that matter. The first thing is project location. At the end of the day, I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen many people develop great projects in risky locations, and then it all falls apart. So location is number one. The project itself is I guess, very important as well. At the end of the day, if you have fundamentals that mean you've got the highest grade, or you've got the better purified products like we have and things like that, then it matters. At the end of the day, the project is the project. And if it's a good one, it's going to be a good one no matter what the cycle in the market. And then I think for juniors, it's about having resilience. As I said before, you're going to go through moments where you're going to get knocked over, you're going to get the challenges, seemingly insurmountable. But if you've got a good location and a good project and a good team around you, I guess, then you've got the basic ingredients. And then you've obviously got to overlay a strategy and get it done. People want to see delivery. They don't want to see people talking and never delivering. So that's a key part as well.
When you think of the idea of future-proofing the African mining industry, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I thought about that. That's a very good question, because at the end of the day, you could talk for a long time about it. But for me, I guess Africa has the minerals. We know that, and the metals. We know that it's got abundance of valuable commodities under the ground. But it's a question of how you get them out. And so the first thing you've got to do is you've got to have governments that are supportive and they put the right regulations and the right framework, whether it be laws or permits or anything else, that allow people to work and get it done, because we're only as good as what we're allowed to do. And then the second part of that is making sure that when you're going forward with something like battery metals, you have this ability to downstream to get the value. And it's pretty much with everything, because base metals is the same. You have this ability to take value beyond just digging something out of the ground and just sending it abroad. So Africa would ideally, and I know most governments are looking for this, would ideally like to build up their sort of secondary markets where they're processing in country or close to the mine sites, and have this ability to create more jobs. And then I guess it's about funding, making it an attractive location for investment dollars to come in to support the people like us who are trying to do the work, because without the money you can't do it. So all of these together have to be in unison and working together to allow us to be successful. Anything out of sync makes it harder.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
For more insights, you can go to miningindaba.com.